Good afternoon, everybody. I am Dommy Hughes Styles. I am the media arts teacher and a phenomenal guy right here in Cata, in Columbus, Ohio. And I have the honor to interview one of my true colleagues and a man I truly admire, Mr. Armour, Mr. JoJuan Armour. How are you doing today, sir?
I'm good.
All right, let's talk about this BAM interview and let's break the stigma, okay?
Absolutely.
I got a couple questions for you. Some people think that young people do not have any pressures or stressors that cause them to have bad days, like feeling depressed. What are some issues or factors that cause you to have bad days?
I think the biggest factor for myself, and I know it varies across different populations, but for me, myself, it was always being misunderstood. As a black man, I pride myself on communicating well with people. I pride myself on being able to articulate my feelings, articulate my emotions, but it wasn't always like that. Having a past experience in playing football, I'm noticeably loud,
right,
I should say. And so sometimes when I express my feelings, it can be perceived as aggression, or that's what people outside of my culture would perceive that as aggression because I'm loud and boisterous. So being misunderstood was a tremendous hurdle for me to overcome, and it took time. It was a process in being able to being able to articulate myself across different cultures, across different genres of people.
Right.
And it's been a process. So I think for me, for the most part, was always being misunderstood.
Okay, so what you're saying is, because of course I'm a black man as well, a lot of it get lost in translation.
Absolutely.
Right.
Absolutely.
So we got to definitely build up on that. Okay, so as a black man, there's a thought that you are not supposed to express yourself or your thoughts and your emotions. How do you know? How do you know it's okay to talk about what you're going through?
I didn't. Unfortunately, that's what caused me a lot of issues when I was younger. Not being able to talk and express myself, and going to funerals and having older men in my family saying, keep it together and don't let them see you crying, and
right.
We don't cry, and things like that, and which was totally erroneous. Like it was completely wrong. And so, because one thing's for certain, if we don't express our emotions, they're going to come out.
Right.
They're either going to come out in our actions, they're going to come out in our behavior. So not being able to express emotions can be hazardous to development, to being able to have people to be empathetic to you.
Right.
Because if you're not aware of your emotions, how can you expect someone else to understand your emotions?
Right. Definitely, suppression is worse than definitely letting it out. You should never suppress your emotions, because, like you said, they will always manifest in different ways.
Absolutely.
It can be aggression. It could be health-wise.
Absolutely.
I know people. Myself, I remember in college, when it happened, I was stressed, and didn't know I was stressed, and I got in a car accident, and my back went parallel to the ground.
Yeah.
And they're like, there's no way your back should be parallel to the ground. Mm-hmm. And then I found out what the stressor was. As soon as that stressor was gone, I started walking upright again.
Absolutely.
So yeah, and then as like you said, as black men, we've been trained. Mm-hmm. Not only been taught, we've been trained to get it done, no matter what. Be quiet, fight the fight. Don't question it.
Yeah.
Just do it.
Like you said, creating those underlying issues, anxiety,
right.
high blood pressure,
right.
stress. So yeah, as a people, not being able to communicate those emotions has been hazardous to us.
Exactly. All right. So asking for help. What motivated you to talk about your suicidal thoughts?
So what motivated me was just my kids. At the time, I had 2 children. And it was just a lot to deal with. There was a lot of emotion. I found myself crying all the time. I found myself pacing the ground, just not being able to ease my mind. And so, and then as the thoughts got worse and worse, I felt a sense of worthlessness, I think. from not being able to control it, not being able to, as a man, I don't think that's our biggest plight. I feel, not feeling like we have to be able to handle it all. Right. We have to be able to manage family, work, anything that comes on our path. We should be able to abuse, addiction.
Right.
So not being able to feel like I was in control of myself. And so when the suicidal thoughts came, I had begun to get in a lot of trouble with the law. I began to get arrested. I began to fight publicly. And so someone pulled me to the side, and he was actually a coworker, and he said he had a friend that he felt I should talk to. And I attended anger management, and it was the best experience of my life. This was when I was 36 years old at the time. And through that process, I learned that I had been in a fight every year of my life since the age of 14.
Wow.
At least one fight every year of my life since the age of 14 to 36. And so I'm 44 now. And after going to counseling, I haven't had a conflict. I haven't had, I've learned how to resolve issues. I've learned how to deal with myself, being aware of myself and where I'm at emotionally. But it was just enough for me. And thank God that person came into my life when he did, because if he hadn't, who knows what would have happened.
All right. So I know you touched on it a little bit. How did you feel after you asked for help?
I was nervous. Going through the process of that, I felt weak. And I think that was the hardest obstacle for me to overcome, having played football, college, professional, having been able to travel to Europe to play in NFL Europe, having been able to play in the Canadian League, having been able to deal with most of the adversity that came into my life. I was able to deal with, but this, I had no idea how to deal with it. I had no idea how to resolve this issue, and I realized I was reluctant to ask for help sooner because I was embarrassed.
Okay.
Because of everything I had accomplished before, why can I not handle me? Right. And so through the process, I met Ernie Banks. He became my anger management counselor. He's one of my best friends to this day. And it was just the process of getting it out and identifying what led me to be so aggressive. So through that process, I learned about my childhood and the way I grew up, and my family, and just different areas of my life that impact how I think as a man. And so when I found out, this is not necessarily the right way to think. For instance, I'll give you an example. In my household, in my family, we grew up that we don't want problems, but we're not running from none. So that means that anything come your path that you don't want to create an issue or situation, but you're definitely going to defend yourself.
Right. And
a lot of times, defending yourself definitely did not have to be the option. Walking away is always the option, and that is defending yourself by walking away.
Right.
And so, the thinking, to change my thinking was the biggest benefit of my life, and to benefit my family.
Okay, so me being a black man, I know it's a lot. Us being black men, it's hard just to make that call for help. Just because, like we said, it's just with my family, it's like, hey, you're the provider.
Right.
You're gonna make this happen, right, no matter what. I don't care what's going on. Hey, I don't care if you had a stressful day at work. I don't care if all the bills are behind and nobody knows you're the financial provider. You're gonna make it happen.
Right.
So, what made you? Did you contact a therapist to discuss your thoughts or feelings, or did you just talk to some? I know you, mentioned Mr. Banks is one of your best friends.
Yeah.
Did you also contact a therapist about your
So I had tried counseling prior to meeting with Ernie, but it was never it was never effective, because the counselors that I met with, which was only 2, but I didn't trust them.
Right.
It's just that distrust of people you don't know.
Right.
And so even before I met with Mr. Banks, it was more of so where is Mr. Banks from? But like I asked these questions. Yeah. And so once I found out he was from a similar community I was from, he had a similar experience that I've had growing up, I was more accepting of him.
Did you feel that it was easier to open up to him since he did have a similar background,
I did. I think that's what made him so effective. He was so relatable.
Okay.
He was so relatable to me. And when you are at the time, I was just having retired from the Canadian Football League. I was just distrusting of people. I was distrusting of letting people know that I was vulnerable. Again, when we talked about like we supposed to be the tough guy, we're supposed to be the leader of the house, and so I was just distrustful to let somebody know that I was at my weakest.
Right.
And so, but again, he had a similar background. He came from similar circumstances. I knew people that he had helped in the past, and so I was able to go to those people like, tell me about Mr. Banks. Tell me about the counseling services that you received from him. And so I did my homework prior to meeting with him. And so because of that, I felt more comfortable that I could be honest with him. I could be vulnerable with him, and I could be trusting of the help that he was trying to provide.
All right. How do you feel about the stigmatism, especially when it comes to black men, about going to therapy?
It's sad. So stigma in any culture, any population of people, it's sad because what stigma does, it alienates you. It isolates you from the rest of the world, thinking that you're the only one going through what you're going through, thinking that it's something wrong with you for going through what you're going through.
Right.
And so, but people have to know that they're not the only one going through certain situations. They're not the only ones experiencing loneliness, experiencing depression, experiencing stress. And just that being in limbo of, what my future may hold. And so I think that stigma is hazardous for an addiction to prevent people from getting just the services that they need. It's a hazardous thing. So, and to prevent stigma, we just all have to be empathetic to each other. We have to be socially aware of everyone, knowing that whatever is in a person's life that's causing them to feel isolated, that it's the population's responsibility to welcome them in and to encourage them, because if we can save one, we can save hundreds.
Yeah, exactly. So what are some self-care strategies that you put in place to help with the bad days? So
the biggest self-care strategy that I put in place, and the one that has been most beneficial to me, is having someone to call. And that person for me has been Ernie Banks. To this day, he's one of my best friends. We're in Columbus. He's in Toledo. He's always available. He's never not been available at my weakest points. I still have times where I am indecisive about what the future may hold. If I'm making the right decision, if I made the wrong decision, how do I recover? But having a team, having people that you can call, having people that you can call when you're in distress, it builds your own resiliency. You know what I mean? It helps you to be able to overcome, because no one does anything without support. I firmly believe that. I firmly believe we all need someone in our corner, and it's people out there. We just have to identify these people and be willing to accept the help.
Well, wow. Great conversation. We can definitely do this a lot more. We can be here for hours talking about this. Make sure, I thank you for even allowing me to interview you for this. I know we're going to be doing this a lot often. Maybe monthly, do something.
We should.
We definitely do that. Once again, this is Mr. Armour. I'm Mr. Chapman. We're here having real conversations with real people, talking about real issues. It's not as bad as you think it is. Talk. Absolutely. Find somebody. Communicate.
Very nice.
Get out your shell. We're here for you. Find that person that you can connect with. If not, find somebody that can help you find somebody they can help you connect with.
Absolutely.
Talk. Have a good day. Appreciate you.
Thank you.